Hello everyone. Today we have another very good topic, very useful topic whoever want to get into the corporate world of technology, irrespective of cloud. A topic that you would have heard many times in some organization or some break called as Center of Excellence. I wanted to bring this up is that how our experience at Later Technologies is on setting up Center of Excellence in multiple Fortune 500, Fortune 100 organizations. This is the summary of all those experiences over here and how we have helped a lot of customers, not just setting for cloud, but for integration, service-oriented architecture, microservices architecture, a lot of platforms. This concept is the same. So without further ado, let's get started. But before we do, as usual, please like, subscribe, share our channel, drop in a comment if anything else is required. And also we'll put our newsletter out where we'll be sending weekly updates on what the latest trends in cloud have been. So please go and subscribe to our newsletter. So wanted to provide what exactly is a Center of Excellence, how people have defined it. John Strickler, there is a team of people that promotes collaboration and use of best practices around a specific focus area to drive business results. Mark George defined it as a team that provides leadership, evangelization, best practices, research, support, and/or training for a focus area. A Center of Excellence may also be aimed at revitalizing stalled initiatives. And the third one is Center of Excellence assimilates and promotes best practices, knowledge, and leading-edge solutions in the area of cloud and any technology irrespective of that. But cloud could be one, EI, microservice, whatever you could put this framework towards. Center of Excellence introduces rigor and discipline across various technology initiatives. If you are working in a corporate environment, you would have heard a lot of these terms called Center of Excellence, Competency Center, Capability Center, Center of Evangelization. For any niche area, it is usually recommended that you set up a Center of Excellence. So what are the typical Center of Excellence focus areas? Planning and leadership, where the Center of Excellence helps define the vision, strategy, roadmap, any change management, as well as any risk management. Center of Excellence typically provides a lot of guidance and a lot of support as well, because it's a niche area, it's a niche technology. And Center of Excellence is going to be the area that has a lot of the knowledge, where it creates standards, methodologies, tools, knowledge repositories, and any mentoring or assistance that is required. It facilitates shared learning. That is, it helps in education, training, promoting certification. It helps in measuring, delivery of results that justifies the creation of the resources. Asset management, that is any portfolio or any resource management. The service librarian as well, that is where the Center of Excellence job is to work with the application team, get the documentation, what they have created, bring it as part of a Center of Excellence and document it so that subsequent teams or other teams can benefit from the work of the application teams. It's like a hub and spoke model that is out there. Governance. It acts as the approval authority because, say, if an application team is working on cloud, it acts as a approving authority before it goes to the architecture governance board. Center of Excellence usually reports to the business unit or corporate interest, in this case also called as the steering committee, to ensure the setup is appropriate. How can the return on investment and Center of Excellence collaborate? So this is where this graph demonstrates to our customers why a Center of Excellence is a must for a lot of these niche technologies to ensure that the right setup is there. A company A that doesn't have a Center of Excellence, how the return on investment with time is going to be, as you could see it in the red light, that the investment is going to reduce subsequently with time, while some organization that has set up Center of Excellence for company B, how the investments are going to pay off with they have a Center of Excellence in place. We have seen this time and again in a lot of the organizations who have invested in Center of Excellence, how they have been able to control cost as well as innovate and get a better return on investment compared to other organizations who haven't. What is company B doing to reap exponential ROI, which is Center of Excellence? A success factors for the company B is a strong executive sponsorship is important, strong technical leadership, and this is where it has to be a top-down driven approach. And project implementation focus for that is going to be project architecture, the infrastructure and application setup, the delivery of the project. This is usually sprint-based model, and of course, knowledge transfer and mentoring. Center of Excellence is one of the key highlighted one. It has to be the enterprise-wide adoption. You just can't pertain it to particular LOB, outline of business, and there has to be a governance oversight. And this has to be repeatable. It usually should be a factory-based model, because the success in one line of business should be emulated to other lines of businesses. Level 1 maturity is the baseline initial performance set up for a project for very small scale. As time passes, the Center of Excellence would be further be matured to enhance and refine performance. And then it would be further it with time to first what a repeatable performance. It has to be a factory-based process. Level 4 for Center of Excellence would be to measure the performance. And level 5 is to optimize the performance. And this is an ongoing process that we're going to keep evolving because new technologies, new services will be released. So what are the most valuable CoE functions? First is Center of Excellence creates and maintains vision plans. It's very important what the CIO or the Chief Information Officer or the Chief Technical Officer has mentioned in terms of what the vision is of the organization. Center of Excellence uses that vision by the CEO, CIO, and ensures it's turned to reality. In this case, it provides the approval for the architecture and technical services that are in use. It's not a one-way street. Whatever good work the application team has done, Center of Excellence brings it as part of the new pattern that should be used by other team members as well. And this is where the pattern part is there, that the more the application teams, whatever patterns of the rules that have come, we want to bring it in Center of Excellence. And the portfolio of services, now this is where what there will be like in cloud itself. In Azure, we use a ton of new services each day, be it ML or model, be it data models. So we use a lot of new services, and all those new services, obviously, it will require POCs, a lot of effort. So the Center of Excellence job is to ensure that we want to catalog the existing services that are being used and document the best practices or any gotchas that are there by implementing the service. And how exactly that service or the technology base can be planned for future subsequent use. That is, we want to avoid each time making their own decisions because then that is where documenting the architecture decisions is very important. What are the important information that the Center of Excellence requires? The advanced plan for evolving the technology base is required, and how the technology fit into the problem. A CoE player satisfaction with cloud or any other technology. Center of Excellence biggest value is in leadership and not training or data technology skills, but it does coordinate and does publish a lot of the training materials. It could be as simple as, say, if there's Oracle Cloud. It can be just go to the Oracle Certification Center on how to go about getting trained on Oracle Cloud. And the Center of Excellence should be thought of as a governance body and second as a training body. But it does both functionalities. So what are the typical Center of Excellence models? The centralized model is very important, where the Center of Excellence is like a service center. Now, second one is distributed model, where a support center is required. The third one is a highly distributed model with the steering group, and this is the model that we have set up in a lot of organizations. And the Center of Excellence is an evolving model. It's not like a hard-coded or a fixed model. So that is why it continuously is evolving based on the feedback of multiple teams because it's an evolution. So it's like with time, everybody will be evolving and the Center of Excellence will be adapting to that communication. At this diagram, it shows the centralized model where if you see there is a customer and the customer interacts with the corporate IT support and there are other team members that work with the support team over here. Now, this is where you could see the list of the things that the corporate IT support does. That is for it does first tier support. The other IT groups, they work on the other support aspect, that is the administration of the database, the architecture of the data layer, any network architecture or system administration, or on subject matter experts as needed. And the corporate IT support and other IT groups, they will be working towards setting up a service center. And service center is responsible for best practices and standards, environment setup and management, implementation, second-tier support, and consulting, supporting to set up the vision, value, strategy. Then there would be development teams who would be working on the application development. There would be the senior level IT steering committee who will be contributing, and these are usually the directors, the VPs, who will be coming from their particular business requirement to provide the target domains and high-level value proposition and ensure that the vision value strategy is understood by everybody. If I see there is an enterprise architecture group, it's also called Architecture Review Board, or other names in other organizations, they are responsible for the architecture, process, data, and system. And business is important because IT is cost center usually, where business will be the one funding and providing the requirements. They have the subject matter experts, they have the domain knowledge, and they will help define the vision value strategy based on what the customer requires. And lastly, there is a central PMO who is going to be responsible for implementation, planning, and management. EMOs will be from the Scrum team, Kanban team, however model that your organization is adopted, they will be working. And they'll be forming the matrix team. So this is their centralized model setup, where the service center is going to be responsible for best practices and standards, environment setup and management, implementation, second-level technology support. So I hope this diagram or the centralized model provides one way of setting up center of excellence in a few organizations. So now let's go to the other model, which is the distributed model. We see that the customer IT support and other IT groups, they form the service center, while in the distributed one differentiation is the customer IT support and other IT groups, they will also be funneling the inputs to the development teams. Here is the center of excellence that will be forming with the development team. We're responsible for the implementation as well as the second tier support. As Netflix says, you code it and you own it. And that is sometimes also called as the SRE, Site Reliability Engineer model. And like there is steering level IT steering committee that are responsible for identifying target domain, high-level value proposition, vision, value strategy. What is a distributed model compared with a centralized model? It is obviously not centralized. It is responsible for the standards and best practices, in this case again, environment setup and management. The distributed model will be maintaining the core team of architects and specialists to assign to projects. It scales better than the service center model. And also, it will be helping in implementing, and second-tier technology support is performed by the application team. So a few differences compared to the centralized center of excellence setup model. Highly distributed model is where a lot of organizations have been using, especially larger organizations, the highly distributed model. One of the differentiating points is the support. Corporate IT support and other IT groups, they will be funneling into the business unit or dev teams based on the line of business compared to the application teams. A business unit, dev teams responsible for architecture, environment setup and management, implementation to ensure the setup is done right, and of course, the second tier support, SRE support, and other flavors of support led other post-production. Steering group will with the business or unit dev teams to ensure the right set vision is executed, and they're responsible for the best practices and standards, and they will be constantly consulted on the vision value strategy. Now, the steering level or IT steering committee is mostly the people or the director, VPs, as I said. They are responsible for identifying target domains and high-level business proposition in case of an argument. This is where a lot of it acts as an arbitrator and helps facilitate the way forward for an organization. That is where this is found by a lot of the VPs, directors, to help steer, and that's why the name steering committee. And this is like a distributed model because the center of excellence, it comprises of those business unit dev teams along with these other teams as well. What are the key points of highly distributed model? Of course, it's the least centralized. The steering group is one of the main decision points where it is responsible for standards and best practices, technology monitoring, as well as minimal staffing. Application teams provide self-sufficient support for a business unit. Now, this slide, I wanted to provide a comparison of the pros and cons of each center of excellence model. Wherein for centralized model, the pros are it is easier to develop and enforce governance. It's faster adoption of standards is very simple model. A lot of it to be you could do it for smaller organizations. It has an efficient feedback too because of the closeness of which people work together. The distributed model, the pros are there is faster uptake under the existing corporate conditions. The center of excellence is not a bottleneck. It scales better than a centralized model. And highly distributed model, the key point differentiating the steering group at the face, is intended to be flexible to meet the demands of different business groups compared to having separate business from a center of excellence model setup. What are the cons for a centralized model? The con is lack of application or business expertise needs to be addressed. And there is a potential need to scale up and down drastically based on the organization demands. A distributed model, the con is of increased governance challenges and increased complexity of maintenance and support. And because the way the teams are structured in terms of lesser people compared to the other setup. And highly distributed model, it has the cons of the centralized model as well as a distributed model. And other than these cons, it's a lot of organizations adapt to this model. At least that's what we have set up in a lot of organizations, and we think that at least it is a lot more successful compared to the centralized and distributed model. This slide shows the typical CoE model characteristics where, for the setting up guidelines, standard patterns, all three models, they are intended to do that. A power of enforcement. Distributed model usually has the highest level of power of enforcement and degree of governance because it is intended to be like one model for a lot of the LOBs and for usually for the entire organization. The initial funding is usually high for distributed model because again it is a top-down model compared to the distributed and centralized. All three set up oversee the training and certification activities. The initial controller over infrastructure, the distributed is not intended to control infrastructure, while the highly distributed is not intended to control infrastructure. It is a separate team. It may have control over initial infrastructure till the infrastructure team or any other team like be cloud engineering or whatever team have set up is mature to take it forward. Like the full-time staffing, all three are fully time staffed people. It is not recommended to have third-party people running your organization's best practices. Active participation in projects by providing resources. The highly distributed and distributed, they're a lean team. They're intended to be like a project team where they have people on bench. But the centralized center of excellence sometimes can have people to share into the different project teams or application teams to help in the execution. The active by the select and authorize user products resource technology methodology is done by all three because that's what the charter of center of excellence is, to help in the governance part of it or ensuring the degree of influence right or the change organizational political challenges. The highly distributed is high, distributed is medium, centralized is low. Likewise for degree of influence in technology vision strategy plan, the degree of participation planning and roadmap determination, actively improve time to market for new business process services. Highly distributed, it has the highest rating, and this is what is highly intended to do compared to distributed and centralized, which is medium and low. But there are tool gates and governance processes such that once the application team is development approved, before they go to SQA, they again stop by to Center of Excellence to review the architecture to ensure that whatever they had done in dev is still continuing in the QA or production environments. This diagram, I wanted to show the CoE and how other primary teams interact. First of all is the architecture, the steering committee. It's important who sets the vision roadmap strategy and how it communicates with the enterprise architecture, the vision roadmap strategy. Now, the enterprise architecture, it works closely with the Center of Excellence to provide the data requirements, reviews the patterns, best practices, standards, as well as this service cataloging plan as well. So Service Center of Excellence helps in the service certification, architecture and standards, development champions and infrastructure champions. The Center of Excellence also works very closely with the PMOs or the project management team to set up project estimation planning, any project governance process, and any delivery process. Business architecture provides information to the enterprise architecture team for the requirement and process model. Center of Excellence will be closely working with the development teams to ensure the architecture is approved, what the development teams have come up with, and any documentation as well as approved. The Center of Excellence will be helping the infrastructure or operations team or the monitoring team and lot of organizations to set up infrastructure spec and implementation assistance. And deployment, the operations and monitoring standards and assistance will also be provided to the operation team. Infrastructure operations will be providing the information like such as the standards and policies, the feedback on standards and best practices, the performance and operational metrics as well to the Center of Excellence. The purple one, it provides the input, the green is the output, and the orange one, yellow one, it is very close collaboration. So I hope this diagram provides a good overview about the CoE and the team's primary interaction for Center of Excellence. So this is an example Center of Excellence organization as part of enterprise architecture. This is one we had set up so just to provide you the model where the Center of Excellence should report to be IT executives, what it could also be called a steering committee. And it also parallelly works with the technology governance lead. The architecture and standards comprises of the principal architect, the principal developer, the principal service architect, and any asset manager for the architecture and standards. The Center of Excellence may also have technology champions. In this case, it could be an architect champion who is championing new technologies pertaining to that, because it is setting up Cloud Center of Excellence. There could be like a serverless technology champion, or there could be a Microservices technology champion. Right? The ISNAN, when as a certification, it means the QA folks, in this case, the DevOps as well, which is where the service testers or the DevOps people or the DevSecOps people. When I say DevOps, it's the operational development or profit, and Sec is the SEC, is the security. And that's what it is going to be fitting in. Now, I just wanted to mention that multiple roles may be filled by the same person. So what does the technology governance lead do? It supports the technology adoption, helps in the project delivery process and governance approach, incorporation of integration governance with overall IT governance, project planning, and management assistance. What does the architecture and standards team does? It helps in the vision and strategy, overall the platform architecture, any standards and best practices, validating and approving of the architecture, as project and service architecture and the documentation review, any catalog or service management, lifecycle management, specifically through AEP as a technology champion team, that's going to be responsible for. They're going to be responsible for infrastructure design and implementation assistance. So what are those standards and best practices considerations? Enterprise standards and best practices are good, but laying them out involves time and money. Because of which, sometimes the best approach is to evolve these in parallel with each project delivered and fund as parts of each project. This is another setup that how we have done, where with the CoE team roles, likewise, it's usually a top-down approach, but there is a lead in case the CoE lead. The CoE lead will be managing the operation on a daily basis, ensuring the ROI in performance metrics are measured, and it will communicate and success to sponsor and stakeholders. Now, this is where the architecture and standards, the BPM, business process management, operations infrastructure, as well as development, support, and virtual SMEs will be under the CoE lead, and also the technology adoption roadmap capabilities. This is another example of for Cloud Center of Excellence team role, where there's a Center of Excellence lead, and it's given that there is an executive sponsor, and then infrastructure and operations is similar. And define the implementation of standard infrastructure, be it for cloud. Again, infrastructure as a core is going to be very important for the setup and the CI/CD pipelines as well. For the development test, this is how the delivery approach works. That is, first we will be having this stacked, that is kickoff the executive sponsor, in this case the CIO, CTO. Will lead to the Center of Excellence, will need to understand the current and future landscape, and this is where the milestones are going to be important. And once the architecture is done, the architecture report will be provided, and this is part of the CoE findings out here. And this is where, once it's done, the technical foundation priorities and deliverables will be created. In terms of the gaps, there will be a plan to deliver a technical foundation, and this is where the technical foundation plan is. It's going to be executed and created, or it could be in a document template, but usually their technical foundation would comprise of the architecture, the development, any infrastructure and operations, as well as any common services or utilities. A few examples of common services are like logging, exception handling, and the CoE is also going to be helping to ensure that the non-technical or the non-functional requirements are adhered to. Please like, subscribe, and share our channel